The city by the water was quiet and cool when Maya Hart stepped out of the cafe with a paper cup warming her hands. It was close to midnight. The harbor lights drew long silver lines on the black surface of the bay, and the wind carried the soft smell of salt. She had spent the evening finishing notes for her graduate research project and texting a friend who needed a ride home. Her rental car, a small dark sedan with out-of-state plates, waited under a street lamp. She unlocked it, set her bag on the passenger seat, and checked her phone one more time. Her friend still had not shared a live location, only a short message that said, "Please hurry. I'm near the old market." The words felt odd, but not alarming. Maya decided to drive slowly and call when she got closer. She pulled away from the curb and joined the empty road that curved along the marina. On most nights this stretch was peaceful. Tonight it felt unusually still. The buildings of the nightlife area were dark. A few workers stacked chairs inside a diner. The sky was clear. Out of habit, Maya spoke aloud to keep herself steady, the way she did during long drives. She reminded herself of her plan: pick up her friend, bring her to Maya's aunt's guest room, and send a quick email to her advisor about the day's interviews. She kept the speed limit, signaled before every turn, and stayed in the right lane. The red and blue lights appeared behind her with no warning. They were bright and quiet, and then the siren gave a short polite burst. Maya eased to the curb, put the car in park, and turned on the interior light. She knew to do that because it helped everyone feel safe. Her fingers rested on the top of the steering wheel. She opened her window and took a slow breath. She did not feel fear exactly, but she did feel the weight of the moment. The officer's flashlight beam swept across her rear window, then along the trunk, then toward her side mirror. A second patrol car stopped behind the first, and its lights painted the road in sharp color. "Good evening," she said softly when the first officer arrived at her window. His nameplate read Dalton. He looked alert, serious, and a little tired. Another officer, a woman, approached on the passenger side and kept a calm distance. Her nameplate read Chen. Maya could also see the small square lens of the body camera on each officer's chest. "May I ask why I was stopped?" Dalton did not answer the question at once. He asked for license, registration, and proof of insurance. Maya reached into her tote bag, moving slowly. She kept her hands visible and narrated each step: "I am getting my wallet. I am opening the glove compartment." She handed over her license and the rental agreement with a quiet "Here you go." Dalton studied the papers. His flashlight traced the dashboard, then paused on a small enamel pin attached to Maya's tote. It was a keepsake she had received during a public outreach talk in Washington, a simple design that showed a stylized eagle inside a circle. It was not a badge. It was not official. It was a gift from a staffer at a community event who had told her, "This is for visitors, it's just a souvenir." "Where are you coming from?" Dalton asked, finally. "The Harbor Bean Cafe," Maya said. "I was finishing a school project. I'm heading to pick up a friend near the old market." She texted that she needs a ride. She kept her voice level and respectful. "May I know the reason I was pulled over?" Dalton told her there had been a tip about a dark sedan in this area. He said the car might match, and he wanted to take a closer look. Maya listened, nodded once, and said, "I understand." When he asked if he could search the car, she replied in the same even tone, "I don't consent to a search, officer. I'm happy to answer questions." She had learned that sentence from a campus workshop on community rights and police communication. It was meant to keep things calm and clear. Officer Chen shifted slightly, the way someone does when they want to ease a tense line in a conversation. "Everything okay here?" she asked her partner, her voice quiet. Dalton said it was fine, but his eyes kept returning to the little enamel pin on the tote. He asked, "What's that?" Maya looked down and said, "A souvenir pin from a public talk." Nothing official, just a gift. Dalton's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He walked back to his cruiser with her license. Maya kept her hands visible and watched the harbor lights beyond the windshield. The night did not feel peaceful anymore, it felt thin and fragile, like a sheet of paper in a dry wind. She told herself to stay steady. She told herself to be patient, to listen, to speak only when asked, and to use simple words. Across the car, Officer Chen offered a small, reassuring nod that said, without words, "I see you are calm. I see you are cooperating." It helped a little. When Dalton returned, he asked Maya to step out of the vehicle. He said there were inconsistencies with the rental and that he needed to check the car further. "Is there a supervisor available?" Maya asked, still respectful. "I'm willing to wait." Dalton said they could handle it. He gestured toward the sidewalk. Chen looked at him and then said gently, "We can call the sergeant to be safe." Dalton's reply was firm, "We'll sort it out at the station if needed." On the sidewalk, Maya asked if she was being detained. Dalton said yes, for the time being. He explained they would transport her to the precinct to verify details and secure the vehicle for an inventory. "I do not consent to a search," Maya repeated. "I will follow your instructions, and I will answer questions." She also asked if she could call the friend who was waiting. Dalton said not right now. Chen quietly asked Maya if she needed water. Maya shook her head and thanked her. At the precinct, the lobby was bright and clean. A desk clerk worked behind a glass window with a friendly potted plant next to a keyboard. The clock above the door showed a few minutes after midnight. The air smelled like coffee and paper. Maya took in each detail and tried to let the ordinary things steady her. She gave her name, date of birth, and address when asked. She spoke slowly and clearly. The clerk typed with soft clicks that sounded loud in the quiet room. Dalton asked for Maya's phone. He said he needed to check messages. Maya kept her voice even. "Officer, I don't consent to a search of my phone. If you have a warrant or a supervisor's instruction, I will follow the process." It was not defiance. It was careful, polite language, the kind used by someone who respects rules and wants everyone to follow them the same way. Chen, standing a few feet away, looked between the two and then at the clock. Dalton's patience thinned. He said the refusal made things harder. He said there was a tip about a dark sedan and that phone records might clear things up faster. Maya repeated her sentence, "I don't consent to a search. I'm willing to answer questions." Chen spoke in a low voice to her partner, "We can call it in and get guidance." Dalton took a breath, nodded once as if to end the discussion, and turned to the clerk. "Run the name," he said. The clerk finished entering the details and pressed return. Something on the screen changed in a way Maya could not see. A small icon lit up, and the clerk's posture straightened. The system had a safety feature that flagged certain names to ensure basic welfare checks, not favors, just contact confirmation when a family member in a high-risk public role might face a targeted incident. The clerk's training said to follow the script. He looked at Dalton and Chen and said, "One moment, please." Then he picked up a phone and spoke a short, quiet sentence that Maya could not hear. Maya did not shift. She kept her shoulders square and her gaze gentle. She still had not said who her mother was. She believed the process should be the same for everyone, and she carried that belief like a compass. It was not pride. It was a simple promise to herself that fairness should not change because of a name. She thought about her friend near the old market and wondered if she was still waiting, still cold, still worried. She hoped to send a text soon, "All good. On my way." The phone on the clerk's desk rang back almost at once. His eyes flicked to the caller ID, and he lifted the receiver with care. He listened. He nodded. He said, "Yes, she is safe and calm. Yes, she is here." He looked at Maya, then at the officers. He said, "Understood," and wrote 2 words on a sticky note. He stood and walked to the inner door that led to the captain's office. "Captain," he called. "You need to take this call." Dalton's jaw moved as if he were grinding through the night. He glanced at the enamel pin on Maya's tote again, the pin that had first made him suspicious and now seemed to unsettle him in a new way. Chen folded her hands and waited, her expression steady. The room felt like a held breath. A printer in the corner hummed and clicked, and a strip of paper slid into its tray. Outside, a gull cried once over the dark water. The captain stepped into the lobby with the phone in hand. He was a tall, calm man with careful eyes. He listened, spoke softly, and asked 2 precise questions. When he hung up, he looked at Maya and said, "Miss Hart, are you okay? Do you need anything, water, a chair?" She said she was fine and thanked him. The captain turned to the officers. "We're going to preserve all body cam footage," he said in a professional tone. "No charging decisions until a supervisor review is complete. Let's proceed by the book." Dalton's shoulders tightened. "Captain, we had a tip," he began. The captain raised a hand in a simple, polite gesture. "Understood. We'll review everything." He looked at Chen. "Officer Chen, thank you for your notes." Chen nodded once, almost a bow, and replied, "Yes, sir." Maya stood still, trying to understand the shift in the room's temperature. She was not sure what had happened, only that something had changed. Her goal remained the same: answer questions, stay calm, and hope for a quick return to the empty road and the quiet harbor lights. She thought about her mother but did not say her name. She had never wanted special handling. She only wanted a fair process and a safe city that treated every person with equal care. The desk phone rang again, clear in the stillness. The captain lifted it, listened, and said, "Yes, this is Captain Ramirez." His expression stayed neutral, but his eyes sharpened with focus. He said, "Understood, and yes, she is safe." Then he added, "We will follow procedure." He placed the receiver down and looked at the clerk. "Log the advisory call," he said. To Dalton and Chen, he added, "Please cue the body cam footage for immediate review." Maya could feel the cliff edge of the moment without seeing the ground below it. The air in the lobby seemed to thicken, not with fear but with attention, the way air changes in a theater when the music drops and the curtain begins to rise. The captain's voice was even and kind when he addressed her again. "Miss Hart, thank you for your patience," he said. "We are confirming a few details. You are not under arrest at this time. You may sit if you like." Maya nodded and remained standing, hands loosely at her sides, breath steady. Behind the glass, the clerk pinned the sticky note to a small cork board. In neat, tidy letters it read, "Advisory contact confirmed." Under it, he wrote the time. The words were simple, but they carried a larger meaning through the hallways and into the captain's office. Somewhere beyond the lobby, a quiet line had been crossed, the line between a routine stop that went wrong and a careful review that might lead to something bigger. The officers did not yet know how big. Maya did not either. She only knew that the night was not over and that truth, like the tide, was moving in. The captain held the phone for a moment longer, listening to the steady voice on the other end. He did not raise his voice or show surprise. He simply said, "Yes, she is safe. Yes, we will follow procedure," and then he thanked the caller and hung up. He looked at Maya again, took in her calm posture, and asked if she needed a chair. She said she was fine. He nodded and turned to the desk clerk. "Log the advisory call with time and caller department," he said. The clerk wrote quickly and placed the note beside the keyboard. The lobby lights hummed softly. The clock hands moved past midnight. Officer Dalton stood a few steps away, hands on his belt, jaw tight. He had worked many late shifts and had seen nights twist without warning. He told himself he had followed a tip. He told himself caution was his job. Yet he also felt the quiet shift in the room, the way the captain took charge, the way every small step now needed to be clean and exact. Officer Chen stayed near Maya, giving the kind of space that makes a person feel seen. She asked again, gently, "Water?" Maya thanked her and said no. "Here is what happens next," the captain said to both officers, his tone even. "We preserve all body cam footage. We review the stop. No charging decision until that review is complete. We do this by the book, not by the clock." He asked the desk clerk to bring a small rolling cart with a monitor into the conference room. He told the overnight supervisor to join them. He asked the communications sergeant to pull the call log for the anonymous tip that mentioned a dark sedan. Each instruction was simple, and each person moved as if grateful for a clear path. Maya listened. She kept her breathing steady and her words simple. "Captain," she said, "may I send one short message to tell my friend I am safe? I do not need to say more." The captain waited for a second, then nodded. "One line. From that desk. Someone will stand with you. No details." He knew a small kindness could lower tension for everyone. Chen walked with Maya to the desk phone and watched politely while Maya pressed the numbers. "I am safe. We'll call later," Maya said into the line, then hung up. It took 10 seconds. She thanked Chen and returned to where she had been standing. Dalton asked about the car. "Sir, the rental needs to be secured," he said. "We should inventory it." The captain kept his voice neutral. "We will follow the policy exactly. No search beyond what policy allows. No phone access without a warrant or clear consent, which we do not have." He looked at the overnight supervisor. "Please confirm the impound paperwork and chain of custody if the car is held." The supervisor nodded and left to check the forms. They moved to the small conference room. It had white walls, a long table, and a simple screen. The smell of coffee was stronger here, mixed with a faint scent of printer ink. The body cam system was already open to the right file. The first image on the screen showed the empty road near the marina, the glow of the street lamp, the dark sedan rolling to a careful stop. The captain pressed play. The audio filled the room, the click of a turn signal, the low hum of the engine, and the sound of Maya's voice saying, "Good evening. May I ask why I was stopped?" They watched the entire stop. Nothing was skipped. The camera showed Maya turning on the interior light, announcing her movements, offering her license, and asking her question again in the same quiet way. They heard her say the line about not consenting to a search. They saw her hands on the wheel. They heard Chen suggest calling a supervisor. They watched Dalton walk back and forth, check the rental agreement, and ask again about the search. The footage did not shout. It did not accuse. It simply played, second by second, a mirror held up to the night. The captain paused twice to note the exact time stamps. He asked the communications sergeant to match those times against the radio log and the tip call. The sergeant said he would. The overnight supervisor checked the policy binder and placed a page on the table, marked with a small sticky tab. It contained the section on consent to search and the steps required before any phone could be examined. The language was clear: no access without consent or a warrant, except in very narrow cases that did not apply here. The captain tapped the page once, not as a scold, but as a reminder. "Sir," Dalton said, "the tip matched the car type." His voice was steady, but the words came faster now, as if he wanted to keep them ahead of the room. "We had reason to be careful." The captain nodded. "We can be careful and still follow every step," he said. "Careful means calm. Careful means clear. Policy makes careful easier, not harder." He rewound a few seconds and watched the moment when Maya asked for a supervisor. He let that small moment sit there, visible on the screen, A quiet piece of film that left no doubt. The desk phone in the conference room rang. The captain answered, listened, and said, "Put it through." A new voice came over the speaker, calm and professional. "This is the Chief of Staff for Director Hart," the voice said. "We are not asking for exceptions. We are only calling to confirm Miss Maya Hart's well-being and to request that local procedure be followed exactly." The captain thanked the caller and replied, "That is what we are doing." The call lasted less than a minute. It left a calm after it, like a wave that arrives, touches the shore, and goes back out. Maya stood at the doorway with Chen. She had not asked to join the review, but no one had told her to move away. She watched the room with quiet eyes. She had a small habit when she was trying to stay centered. She counted 4 things she could see, 3 things she could hear, and 2 things she could feel. She saw the screen, the table, the binder, and the captain's pen. She heard the fan, the faint tick of the wall clock, and a printer in some other room. She felt the floor under her shoes and the smooth edge of the door frame under her fingertips. The habit worked. Her heartbeat stayed even. The communications sergeant returned with a printout of the tip log. He placed it on the table. The time of the call matched the time of the stop by only a few minutes. The caller had reported a suspicious dark sedan circling near the marina but had given no plate number, no driver description, and no clear behavior beyond the word circling. A note in the margin showed that similar calls had come in on 3 recent weekends, always near the same intersection. The sergeant raised an eyebrow. "Might be nothing," he said, "but it's a pattern." "Let's mark it for follow-up," the captain said. He wrote the word flag in neat letters at the top of the printout. He asked the overnight supervisor to notify internal affairs that an administrative review had begun. The supervisor said he already had. The captain thanked him. Then he turned to Chen. "Officer Chen, your audio captured a suggestion to involve a supervisor at the scene." "Good. Please write a short supplemental note while it's fresh." Chen nodded, relief crossing her face in a small, brief way. Dalton exhaled. He looked tired. "Sir, I thought the pin was something else," he said, not as an excuse but as a plain admission of the thing that had sparked his suspicion. The captain met his eyes. "Understood," he said. "Pins, decals, and souvenirs are not cause on their own. We act on behavior and clear facts. This is not a punishment talk. It is a learning talk and a care for the public talk. We all have them. We will let the review process speak where it needs to." The words landed without heat. They belonged to a leader who believed that steady correction could be strong without being loud. Maya asked one question, softly. "Captain, will I be able to leave tonight?" He was honest. "We are moving toward that," he said. "We need to complete a few steps." "Thank you for your patience." She said, "Thank you for explaining." Her tone carried something rare in tense rooms, goodwill that had survived a hard hour. It made everyone breathe a little easier. The overnight supervisor came back with the checked forms. "If the car is held, we can do so without an invasive search and arrange for a prompt release if the review finds no cause," he said. "We can also choose to release now with a note." The captain considered it. He looked at the screen again, then at the tip printout, then at Maya. "We will pause any impound decision," he said. "No search. No charges at this time. We will confer with the on-call attorney." He picked up the phone. The call to the on-call attorney took only a few minutes. The captain explained the facts in simple lines, not shading the edges, not leaving out the moments that mattered. He described the stop, the consent questions, the phone request, and the advisory call. He described the tip log and the pattern of similar calls. He listened. "Understood," he said. "Yes, we will brief whomever is assigned tonight." He hung up and told the room, "The assistant district attorney on duty is on the way." Maya felt her shoulders loosen just a little. The path was not straight yet, but it was visible. Chen offered her the chair again, and this time she took it. Dalton stepped out to get a cup of water and returned with two. He placed one on the table near Maya without a word. She thanked him. It was a small bridge, but it was a bridge. In the lobby, the desk clerk printed a fresh intake log and filed the sticky note under a plastic clip. He liked order. He liked when things were written down and easy to follow. He watched the glass door, because that was his job too, and he saw headlights sweep across the sidewalk. A quiet black SUV eased to the curb. The driver turned off the engine and looked up at the building. The clerk could not see who was in the back seat, but he could see a slim folder on the passenger's lap, the kind of folder a careful person carries when they plan to take notes and ask precise questions. The captain stepped back into the lobby to meet whoever was arriving. The night air slipped in with him, cool and clean, carrying a hint of the bay. Maya sat very still and listened to the murmur of the building, the sound of footfalls, the low rumble of an engine shutting down. She did not know yet who would walk through the door. She knew only that the next part of the night would be about clarity, not guesses. She wanted that for herself and for the city. In the conference room, the paused bodycam frame still showed the interior of her car lit softly from above, her hands steady on the wheel, her face calm and patient, a picture of a person waiting for fairness to do its work. The lobby door opened. A person stepped in with a legal pad under one arm and a pen clipped at the top. The desk clerk looked up and pushed the visitor sign-in sheet forward. The newcomer wrote a name with clean, even letters and glanced toward the conference room, where the screen's light glowed against the wall. The captain greeted the visitor with a short nod that meant we have work to do, and we will do it right now. The clock on the wall ticked once, firmly, as if it agreed. The assistant district attorney introduced himself at the front desk in a quiet voice and wrote his name on the sign-in sheet, Jordan Morales. He looked like someone who treated late nights as part of the job. Neat jacket, scuffed briefcase, alert eyes. The captain met him halfway across the lobby and shook his hand. "Thank you for coming," the captain said. "We have bodycam ready and call logs pulled." Morales nodded, took in the comm scene, and said, "Let's put everything on the table and keep it simple." They went into the small conference room where the screen still showed the paused frame of the traffic stop. Maya sat near the door with Officer Chen standing a polite step away, like a steady guard who also knew when to give space. Officer Dalton stood farther back, shoulders square, face careful. Morales placed his legal pad on the table and uncapped a pen. He listened as the captain summarized the night in clean lines: the stop, the request to search, the refusal, the lack of a warrant, and the advisory call that confirmed a sensitive welfare check. He did not raise his eyebrows. He did not frown. He only made small notes and said, "Play it from the start." They watched the video. The room was so quiet that the faint whir of the hard drive sounded like a soft wind. Morales asked for time stamps when Maya turned on the interior light, when she narrated her movements, and when she said, with calm respect, "I don't consent to a search." He asked for the exact time when Chen suggested calling a supervisor. He asked when the request for the phone was made and what words were used. When the video reached that part, he wrote those words down: "Unlock your phone so we can clear this up." When it ended, he asked everyone to sit. "Miss Hart," Morales said, "thank you for remaining polite and clear. I would like to speak with you privately for 2 minutes. Officer Chen, please stay in the hall with us." "Captain, we'll be just outside the door." He was courteous with everyone and specific with his reasons. The captain agreed. They stepped into the hall, where the lights were slightly dimmer and the night smelled faintly of the sea again. Morales stood so that Maya never felt cornered. He kept his tone even. "You did not use your last name earlier," he said. "Do you want to now?" Maya took a slow breath. "I kept quiet because I believe fairness should be the same for every person," she said. My name is Maya Hart. Morales nodded once, as if a puzzle piece had snapped into place. He thanked her and asked one more question, is there anything urgent about your friend? Maya told him about the message from near the old market and the unusual phrase roadblock trouble. Morales made a note and said, we will look into that too. They returned to the conference room. Morales wrote a single line at the top of his pad, process first. Courtesy always. Then he asked the communications sergeant to bring in the tip log again and to add any notes on similar calls this month. The sergeant hurried out. Morales asked Dalton to describe, in his own words, why the stop had moved from caution to impound plan. Dalton spoke in a steady voice, choosing each word like a brick for a wall. He explained the anonymous tip about a dark sedan, the late hour, the out-of-state plates, and the souvenir pin that had made him think there was more to the story. I did not want to miss something risky, he said. He did not mention anger. He did not mention pride. Only risk and duty and a long week of little sleep. Thank you, Morales said. He did not argue. He looked at the policy page the captain had placed on the table and tapped the section about consent and phones. The law is our guardrail, he said, not unkindly. When we hold to it, even during long weeks, it holds us up too. He turned to Chen. Officer, your audio captured a suggestion to involve a supervisor. Anything else you think we should know? Chen kept her hands folded and chose direct words. She said Maya had been calm and clear. She said she had felt tension rise when the souvenir pin came up, and she had hoped a supervisor call might settle the moment. She said she had followed her partner's lead because the decision was his at the time. I believed we should slow down, she concluded. I regret not pressing that point. The communications sergeant came back with a thicker printout and a simple map. He spread both on the table. We've had 6 calls in 4 weeks about a dark sedan or a suspicious car near the marina or the old market, he said. Little detail each time. No plates. Sometimes the caller says circling or roadblock. He pointed to 2 intersections that had been mentioned more than once. These 2 spots come up the most, mostly on weekends, often near midnight. Morales drew a box around the intersections on the map. Who answers the anonymous line? He asked. Dispatch, the sergeant said. We record and log, but we don't post caller IDs on the tip line screen for privacy. The raw phone records are held by the vendor. Morales made another note and asked, any stops following these calls that led to action? The sergeant shook his head. 3 warnings, 1 equipment fix-it ticket, and tonight. That's all. Across the street, outside the precinct, a quiet figure with a notebook watched the building. Her name was Samira, a local journalist who preferred accuracy over speed. She had followed a whisper about patrol cars returning to the station with their lights off and a black SUV parking out front. She had no facts yet, only questions, so she waited, counted cars, and wrote times. She would not post a story without the whole picture. She believed in stories that helped a city calm down, not heat up. Back inside, Morales considered the printouts, then asked for the rental forms. The overnight supervisor handed them over. Everything matched, name, dates, car type. Nothing suggested a problem. Morales underlined one sentence on his pad, insufficient basis for phone unlock. Then he wrote another line, impound unnecessary at this stage. He looked at the captain and said, we should release Miss Hart without charges. We should also open a review of the tip pattern. It may be nothing, it may be something. Either way, we need to know. The captain agreed. He had the calm face of someone who knew that steady choices build good mornings after hard nights. He thanked Morales and told the clerk to prepare release paperwork. He asked the internal review unit to mark Officer Dalton's actions for evaluation under the training section, not as a punishment decided in a hurry. He asked Chen to file her supplemental note and to add her suggestion to a list of ideas for improving late-night supervision. He wanted useful lessons, not loud speeches. Maya listened, hands folded, breathing easier. But she remembered the message from her friend and the words roadblock trouble, and a small knot remained in her chest. When the room paused, she spoke. "There is something I should add," she said. My friend's message used the word roadblock. It felt strange at the time. I wondered if there really was a roadblock near the market tonight. The communications sergeant checked a screen and shook his head. "No planned checkpoints tonight," he said. "We post those. Nothing on the log." Morales drew a dark line under the word roadblock on his pad. "We should check cameras near those two intersections," he said. "Gas stations, storefronts, traffic cams. If the calls are clustered, maybe a single person had a clear line of sight." The captain assigned a small team to pull public-facing footage. He called the watch commander to arrange for a quick pass through the old market area, not with sirens, just with quiet eyes. He gave the kind of instructions that sounded simple and made people feel purposeful: look, note, and bring back what you see. He also asked the dispatch supervisor to review raw audio of the tip calls, to see if the same voice had phoned more than once. "We do not guess," he said. "We check." Officer Dalton stood very still, as if he were deciding how to carry the next hour. He walked over to Maya and said, "When the paperwork is ready, I'll escort you to your car if you prefer." His voice was careful. Maya appreciated the gesture. "Thank you," she said. "I would like to call my friend first and ask if she still needs help." Dalton nodded. He looked tired and sincere. The long week showed around his eyes. Morales stepped into the hall to take a short call from the on-call judge's clerk about general phone search procedures. When he returned, he made one more clear statement for the record: no phone search without warrant or consent. No impound of the vehicle. Release Miss Hart now. Internal review continues. He looked at Dalton and Chen in turn. "Thank you both for your professionalism tonight. We will address training and process in daylight." The clerk entered with a small stack of papers and a pen. "Miss Hart," he said kindly, "these explain that you are released without charges and that your vehicle is not being held. Please sign to confirm you received this notice." Maya read every line, not out of fear but out of respect. She signed and thanked the clerk by name. The clerk blushed a little. He was not used to gratitude in the middle of the night. Before she left the room, Morales asked if she would be willing to provide a brief statement about her route and the message from her friend. "It will help us connect times and places," he said. Maya agreed. She traced her path from the cafe to the stop and recited the text as best as she could remember: "Please hurry. I'm near the old market, roadblock trouble." Morales wrote it out and repeated it back to her to confirm. "Thank you," he said. "We will check the area." They stepped into the lobby together. The air felt different, like a room after a window has been opened. The captain thanked Maya for her calm and her patience. "We are sorry for the difficult experience," he said, without legal words that weaken simple truth. "We will treat tonight as a lesson and an opportunity to improve." Maya nodded. "Thank you for taking the time to review," she said. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the lobby like a small bell that says, "We can do better and we will." Outside, the street was still, and the bay behind the buildings breathed its slow, deep breath. Across the way, Samira watched two uniformed officers step out and scan the sidewalk. She did not rush toward them. She wrote the time. She drew a small arrow on her page to mark that something had resolved inside, even if she did not yet know what. She planned to call the precinct in the morning for a public statement. She would not guess, she would check. Maya stopped near the front door and looked through the glass at the quiet road. "May I make that call now?" she asked. "Of course," the captain said. She dialed. The phone rang and rang, then went to voicemail. She left a simple message, "I'm safe. I'm leaving the station now. Where are you?" Her words were calm, but a thin line of worry ran through them, the kind you cannot hide when you care for someone who might be standing alone in the dark. Chen offered to walk Maya to the curb. Dalton followed at a distance, giving space. The night had cooled. A gull cried once above the water, then settled. At the edge of the sidewalk, Maya paused. "Thank you," she said to Chen. "For the way you spoke during the stop. I heard you." Chen gave a small nod. "Thank you for staying calm," she replied. "It helps everyone think." They reached the car. The interior light came on softly when Maya opened the door. Her tote was where she had left it. The little enamel pin on the strap caught a sliver of light and looked like nothing more than a small piece of metal with a simple design. It did not hold power. It did not demand attention. It was just a reminder of a talk about service and fairness that she had once attended. She placed the tote on the seat and sat for a moment with her hands on the wheel, not to drive, but to breathe. Morales stood under the awning with the captain. "The pattern on the tip line," he said, "could be coincidence. Or it could be a person pushing buttons and then offering to help confused drivers later for a fee. I have seen versions of that in other places." The captain nodded. "We'll look," he said. "We'll let facts lead." They both watched Maya start the engine, check her mirrors, and pull away with careful signals and steady speed. The red tail lights moved toward the harbor road and then turned out of sight. In the darkness near the old market, a camera above a gas station kept its silent watch. It could not know that, in a few hours, a small team would pull its footage and see a van parked in a spot with a clear view of the intersection, night after night, on the same weekends, just before some of the calls. It could not know that a notepad inside that van would hold times and routes and little arrows like the one Samira drew in her own notebook. It only recorded. It only waited. Back at the precinct, the captain wrote 3 sentences in a memo: "Release without charges. Preserve all footage and logs. Review anonymous tip procedures." He did not add drama. He added a line for morning briefing: "We keep trust by doing small things right at 1A.M. He placed the memo on the watch commander's desk and turned off the conference room screen. The last image to fade was the body cam frame of Maya's steady hands on the wheel, a picture of patience under pressure. As Maya drove, her phone buzzed once. A new message from her friend appeared: "I'm okay. Phone battery low. Something strange near the market. Will explain." The words were short, but they sparked the next turn in the night. Maya eased onto the empty avenue, eyes on the road and mind on the puzzle. The city slept, but the story did not. It moved, quietly, from friction to pattern, from guess to proof, from a hard hour to the work that would make the next hour better for everyone. The morning came slowly, as if the bay were breathing light onto the streets. Inside the precinct, the night team handed over notes to the day team, but the main people stayed: Captain Ramirez, Ada Jordan Morales, Officer Lena Chen, and the communications sergeant with his stack of call logs. Maya slept for a short hour at her aunt's place and then returned with a fresh mind and a simple goal: help with any facts she knew. She brought a small notebook and a calm face that made busy rooms feel less sharp. Morales asked for a quick huddle in the conference room. The map from last night was still on the table with 2 intersections boxed in ink. "We will move in 3 lanes," he said in plain words. "First, confirm whether a person is pushing false or vague tips. Second, check if anyone is turning those tips into profit by scaring drivers and selling help. Third, keep the public calm by staying quiet until we have facts. No leaks, no guesses." The captain nodded. "Add a 4th lane," he said. "We support anyone who was confused or stressed by these stops, including Miss Hart's friend. We offer help, not blame." They split tasks. The communications sergeant and a tech specialist contacted the vendor that handled the anonymous tip line. They did not ask for private identities, they asked for patterns, call timing, tower locations, and whether several tips came from the same device or cluster. A small patrol team went to the two intersections to walk the corners and note every camera, traffic poles, storefront domes, gas station rigs, and a hotel overhang with a small lens tucked under a metal lip. Officer Chen led that walk. She moved like a careful reader, taking in each block as if the buildings were lines of a page. Maya sat with the captain and pinned times on the map. She traced her route from the cafe. She marked where she had seen the patrol lights behind her. She also read the messages from her friend again and again, short, careful, and strange. The phrase roadblock trouble did not fit the city's routine. There had been no official checkpoint. Someone, somewhere, was using the idea of a checkpoint like a shadow to make people afraid and off balance. At the gas station near the old market, the manager was helpful. He had seen late-night stops on weekends and had noticed a van that parked the same way on several of those nights. He pulled footage while the tech specialist queued a copy. The video showed a boxy van with a faded company name on the side that had been painted over in a pale stripe. The van arrived before midnight and stayed facing the intersection, not the pumps. The camera caught the driver once when he stepped out to stretch, a man in his 30s, average height, neat beard, baseball cap. He looked like a person who could blend in anywhere. In the footage from different nights, he took calls, watched the intersection, and wrote in a small notebook. He did not buy gas. He did not go into the store. Chen and the captain looked closely at the time stamps. Several calls to the tip line began minutes after the van parked. The pattern was not proof yet, but it was strong enough to matter. The tech specialist made a still image of the driver's face and ran it through the city's business registration records and recent citations. Nothing came back. The man was either using a different name or none at all. The captain circled the van on a printout and wrote recent kiosks in the margin. The tech specialist checked camera footage from a nearby electronics kiosk that sold prepaid phones. 2 days earlier, the same man had used cash to buy 3 small, cheap phones in one transaction. The timestamp matched a cluster of vague tips that weekend. The man had paid with exact bills and wore the same cap. Back at the precinct, Morales kept the legal thread clear. "We are not chasing a person," he said. "We are following actions. If a crime exists, it will show in the steps." He authorized a limited surveillance plan: watch the van if it appears again, document any calls placed at the moment it is parked, and note any person who approaches drivers after a confusing stop offering help for a fee. He also suggested an undercover piece, a plain car with a minor, harmless issue like a loose gas cap to see if someone tries to advise the driver for money. Maya received a short text from her friend at mid-morning: "I'm safe. Meet later." The friend's name was Leah. She said she could come by the precinct in the afternoon to give a statement. "Please do," Maya replied. "We want to make the city safer." "No blame." Leah sent a thumbs up emoji and a simple heart. The notepad in Maya's hand felt steadier after that. The journalist, Samira, worked on her own clean path. She called the precinct's public information line and left a message requesting a statement about late-night activity. She did not tweet rumors. She did not name people. She waited because she believed that trust grows when facts are solid. She knew the city would hear about last night eventually. Her job was to make sure what they heard made things better, not louder. By early afternoon, the vendor for the tip line reported a useful detail: several calls in recent weeks pinged off the same small cluster of cell towers near the old market, and 2 calls had been placed within 10 minutes of each other from devices that had been first activated the day they called. The pattern suggested fresh prepaid phones used briefly and then shut off. Again, it was not proof, but it was a path. Morales called it good smoke and said, "Let's find the fire with care." The captain set the operation for that evening, the time when tips had been most common. The plan was simple. Officer Chen would be in a marked car near the marina. A second unit would park 2 blocks away. A plain sedan with an undercover officer, a kind-eyed woman named Ortiz, would drive past the intersection slowly, as if looking for an address. A small technical team would watch the gas station camera feeds in real time. The communications sergeant would listen for any tip about a dark sedan or circling car. If a tip came, he would log the exact moment and flag it. If someone approached Ortiz to offer help, the undercover officer would listen, ask simple questions, and decline money until a clear offer or demand was spoken on camera. No one would rush. No one would block. The goal was safety and clarity. Before the operation, Leah came to the precinct. She looked tired but safe, with a hoodie and a tote that matched Maya's in quiet style. She told her story in simple words. "I was near the old market waiting for Maya," she said. 2 cars were pulled over on different sides of the street. A man told me there was a roadblock down the block and I should take a different route. He handed me a card that said traffic relief consultant and a phone number. He said if the roadblock scared me, he knew people who could smooth it for a small fee. He did not wear a uniform. He spoke fast, like a person selling something in a hurry. Leah handed the card to the captain. The number on it matched the pattern, a cheap line that did not stay active long. Leah continued. "I texted my roadblock trouble because I thought there was an official checkpoint, and I did not know the rules. Then my phone battery went low. A few minutes later, I overheard 2 people say there wasn't any real checkpoint. I got confused and left to a brighter street. I stayed there until my battery died, then I went home with a neighbor." Morales thanked her. The captain asked if she would be willing to identify the man if she saw him again. Leah said yes, if she could do so calmly and safely. Evening came with the same slow light as the night before, but the teams were ready. Chen tested her body cam. Ortiz tested a dash camera hidden near her rearview mirror. The technical team checked their cables and screens in a small room with a humming fan. The communications sergeant adjusted his headset and set a fresh page at the top of his clipboard. The captain walked through each location and asked one question at each: "What is your simple job?" He wanted each person to say it aloud. The answers were clean: watch the van. Listen for tips. Drive like a normal person. Do not make guesses. At 10:46 p.m., the gas station camera caught the boxy van rolling into the same spot. The driver wore the same cap. He made a short call, then another. At 10:51, the tip line lit up, dark sedan circling near the market. The communications sergeant wrote the time with a hard line. Officer Ortiz had just passed the first boxed intersection in the plain sedan. She signaled, turned, and drove as if she had missed a street. 2 minutes later, a second tip: possible roadblock confusion. The van driver stepped out, stretched, and watched the corner. A man approached Ortiz at the next light. He wore a jacket and carried a small stack of cards. He knocked lightly on her window and spoke through the gap. "Roadblock ahead," he said. "Confusing. I can show you a cleaner route. I help people avoid bad stops. Some folks donate for my time." He smiled like a friendly neighbor. Ortiz said, "No, thank you, I'm fine." The man held out a card anyway. "Keep it," he said. "If anyone gives you trouble, call me. I know exactly what to say to make them back off." He tapped the card with his finger. "I fix things for stressed drivers. Quick and easy." Ortiz took the card so the camera could see it. She asked, "Do you work for the city?" The man chuckled. "No, but I'm better than the city," he said in a soft, fast voice. "I know the system. $20 now, and I'll walk you through what to say if you get stopped. I can also text you a speech to show them." Works every time. Those words mattered. They crossed a line from friendly stranger to paid consultant offering to coach drivers in the moment of a stop, right where fear lives. Ortiz declined again. "I don't pay for that," she said, staying calm. "I'll be fine." The man shrugged and moved away to the corner, glancing toward the van. He made another call. The communications sergeant wrote the time, 10:58 p.m. In the gas station feed, the driver lifted a phone and looked at the intersection. The captain gave a simple order into the radio: "Hold steady. Document. No contact until all elements are clear." He did not want a chase. He wanted a clean chain of events. At 11:04 p.m., the man with the cards approached another car and said similar words. The driver, an undercover from the second unit, asked, "Do you guarantee this works?" The man said, "100%. I have scripts." He tapped his pocket. "Pay now, and I send a text. I can also call the tip line to warn officers you're coming so they relax. I'm connected." The technical team marked the phrase "call the tip line" in their notes. Morales, listening over a speaker in the small room, said, "That is enough." He authorized contact. The captain gave the go. Officers moved with calm steps. They did not shout. They did not push. They approached the man and the van driver at the same time. "Good evening," Chen said to the man with the cards. "We need to ask you some questions." The man tried to slide his phone into a pocket, but Chen gently took his hand away and asked him to keep his hands where she could see them. The van driver looked toward the gas station door as if to go inside. An officer stepped between him and the door and said, "Please stay. We have questions." They asked for names. They asked for ID. They asked what the men were doing tonight. The man with the cards said he was just helping. The van driver said he was meeting a friend. The officers explained they were documenting a series of calls and contacts that matched a pattern. They requested consent to look inside the van. The driver refused, which was his right. They did not force. Instead, they detained both men briefly while a judge on call reviewed a narrow warrant request based on the observed pattern, the fresh calls, the cards, and the recorded offers to sell coaching for stops. The process took patience. The team kept the sidewalk calm. During the wait, Leah stood with Maya at a safe distance where they could see but not get in the way. "That's him," Leah whispered, pointing to the man with the cards. "He gave me the same line, same smile." Maya nodded, not with anger, but with the quiet relief that comes when a confusing shape becomes clear. The warrant approval came through, narrow and specific to the van and the prepaid phones on scene. Officers opened the van and found a small bag with 3 prepaid phones, a notebook with dates and intersections, and a batch of printed advice sheets that looked like rehearsed scripts for traffic stops. Each sheet began with the same sentence in bold font: "This driver has been unfairly targeted." A receipt for the kiosk purchase of 3 phones was tucked in the notebook pocket. The times matched the vendor's report. Chen photographed each item, logged them, and placed them in labeled bags. The man with the card sighed and said, "It's just a side gig." The van driver looked down and said nothing. No one raised a voice. No one said harsh words. The team let the facts speak. The captain radioed the precinct, 2 detained. Evidence secured. Bringing them in for questioning. The bay air felt cooler. The lights at the intersection looked softer. As the officers turned to go, the van driver made a small, quick move toward his pocket. An officer gently stopped him and asked, "What are you reaching for?" The man opened his hand. Inside was another small phone. The screen showed a draft text message to a number labeled "Consult." The message read, "Calling in new tip now." The timestamp matched the moment before the approach. The officer photographed the screen. The man closed his eyes and exhaled. Maya watched the scene settle. She did not smile. She did not frown. She placed a hand over her notebook and felt the edges press into her palm. She thought about how fear can be a business if people let it, and how calm, patient work can stop that business. She looked at Chen, who was labeling the evidence bags with neat writing, and she felt a quiet gratitude for steady people who choose careful steps instead of quick noise. They drove back to the precinct with the two men and the items from the van. The city felt different on the ride in. It was not louder. It was not brighter. It was simply more honest. The team had pulled a thread and found the fabric behind it. At the station, the captain called Morales. "We have the pattern, the offers for money, and the phones," he said. "We also have the notes." Morales replied, "Good. We will move to charges for fraudulent practice and unlawful interference with public safety operations. We will also review any stops connected to these tips and support those drivers." Maya and Leah stood in the lobby as the doors closed behind the team. They did not cheer. They took a breath at the same time, as if their lungs shared one careful rhythm. "You okay?" Maya asked. "I am now," Leah said. "I thought I was the only one who didn't understand what was happening. Turns out someone was making things confusing on purpose." Maya nodded. "Clarity is kind," she said. The captain stepped into the lobby and met their eyes. "Thank you both," he said. "Your details helped." He looked toward the hallway where the evidence room waited. "We still have work," he added, not as a warning, but as a promise. The night had moved from pattern to proof. The last step would be repair, the kind that makes rules clearer, training stronger, and trust thicker than fear. By sunrise, the precinct felt like a workshop more than a station. People moved with purpose, not rush. The two men from the night before sat in separate rooms while detectives took careful notes. No one raised a voice. No one cut corners. The items from the van were logged, photographed, and sealed in bags with neat labels. The small phones, the stack of advice sheets, the notebook with dates and corners of the map, all of it told a simple story: fear can be turned into a business if no one pays attention. Now people were paying attention. Assistant District Attorney Jordan Morales wrote the first charge list in clean, steady handwriting: fraudulent practice, unlawful interference with public safety operations, and solicitation connected to a public service. He left space for any other appropriate counts that might fit after a full review. He added one more line that mattered to him: notice to potential impacted drivers, support and clarity available. He wanted people who had felt confused or stressed to know they were not at fault. He wanted them to know they could come forward and be met with calm help. Captain Ramirez walked through the morning briefing with the same tone he had used all night. He did not move fast. He moved fair. "We will fix what we can fix," he said. "We will learn from what we can learn. And we will make our steps visible so trust can see us working." He assigned a team to call drivers who had been stopped after the questionable tips. He assigned another to review training around consent to search, phone requests, and supervisor calls. He asked Officer Lena Chen to draft a one-page consent card in simple language that officers could read on body cam and hand to drivers. "Plain words help," he said. "Plain words build calm." Maya and her friend Leah sat in a small meeting room with cups of tea the clerk had quietly placed on a tray. They each gave a formal statement, then waited while copies were printed for their records. They spoke in simple sentences. They did not add flavor. They told what they saw and heard. When they finished, Leah let out a breath she had not noticed she was holding. "I feel steady now," she said. "Last night felt like being lost in a hallway with the lights off. Today the lights are on." Maya nodded. "Thank you for coming in," she said. "It helps more than you know." By late morning, the city knew something had happened, but they did not know what. That is when the precinct made a careful choice. They announced a press briefing for early afternoon and posted a short, Clear note, we are investigating a pattern of misleading anonymous tips and paid consulting around traffic stops. 2 people are in custody for questioning. We will share facts. We will share steps. We ask for patience. No names. No drama. Just a promise to be simple and honest. Journalist Samira stood near the back of the room as chairs filled. She had spent the morning checking details, not chasing whispers. She had the times from the night before, the caller pattern information, and comments from a gas station manager who had watched a van sit facing the intersection too many nights in a row. She also had something more important, the decision to wait for the full picture. When the captain stepped to the podium, she raised her pen, not to catch a quick quote, but to record the shape of repair. Captain Ramirez spoke first. Last night, we documented a pattern in which vague tips triggered stops, and a private individual then approached drivers with offers of paid help. We do not believe this was about safety. We believe it was about money made from fear. We have made 2 arrests and collected evidence, including phones and printed scripts. The district attorney's office will file charges. He did not point blame at every officer. He did not pretend everything was perfect. He simply named the problem and the actions taken. Then he did the part that matters most on hard days. He named changes, one by one, in words even a tired person could hold in their head. First, he said, we are introducing a verified checklist for anonymous tips. If a tip does not meet a simple standard details like plate numbers, behavior, or a clear event, we will log it but not treat it as urgent. Second, we are adding a consent to search card read on camera and handed to drivers. Third, any request to access a phone will require a supervisor call recorded on body cam unless a warrant is already in hand. Fourth, for stops that do not lead to a citation or arrest, we will share body cam release timelines on a public page so people are not left in the dark. Fifth, we will host open sessions where anyone who felt confused during a stop can ask questions and receive guidance. He paused after each point and let it land. He wanted people to hear every step as a promise and a habit, not a headline. Morales stepped forward next. He explained the charges in simple language. He also announced a voluntary support program. Any driver who had received a card from a traffic consultant could bring it in, provide a statement, and receive help understanding what had happened. No fees, no blame, he said. We will listen. We will guide. He looked at the room with steady eyes. Our goal is not to make the loudest noise, he added. Our goal is to make the next late-night drive feel normal again. A hush moved through the room when the next speaker appeared on a screen. It was Evelyn Hart, director of a federal agency, not in person but by video. She kept the moment simple. Thank you to the city for handling my daughter's situation with process, not pressure, she said. Her name should not matter. Every person deserves calm, clear treatment. I am grateful for the steady work done by Captain Ramirez, Officer Chen, Ada Morales, and others. I ask the public to see tonight's changes as the heart of service. We learn, we adjust, and we keep our promise to treat people with dignity. She ended with a quiet thank you and disappeared from the screen. Maya did not stand at a podium. She stood to one side of the room with Leah and the clerk. But when the captain asked if she wished to say a few words, she agreed. She walked to the microphone and looked out at the faces, officers, neighbors, reporters, night shift workers who had stopped by on their way home. Her voice was soft but clear. I am grateful for the review last night, she said. I stayed quiet about my last name because I believe fairness should be for everyone. I was treated with respect during the review. I want to thank the desk clerk, the captain, and Officer Chen for steady, careful work. I also want to thank the attorney who kept the law as our guide. My hope is simple, the next person in a dark car on a quiet road will feel calm, not afraid. Thank you. After the briefing, questions came. They were honest and practical. How will the tip checklist work? When will the consent cards be ready? What happens to the two men? The captain and Morales answered each in turn. The checklist would be introduced by the end of the week, piloted for 30 days, and then made permanent with any smart edits. The cards would be printed that afternoon using Officer Chen's draft, which was clear and polite. The two men had been arraigned and released on conditions. The case would move through the courts with no shortcuts and no delays. We do not make promises we cannot keep, Morales said. We make plans we can show. Samira filed her story at sunset. Her headline was quiet, city adds clear steps after tip line scheme, officials thank calm driver for patience. Her article described the evidence, the new rules, and the way the station had turned a hard night into a plan. She quoted Maya's short hope. She ended with a small detail only careful eyes catch. A clerk placed a tray of tea on a table and wrote down every name correctly. In a city, trust is built by big choices and small courtesies. A week later, the first open session filled the community room at the library. Chairs formed a circle. The captain opened with 3 sentences, "Thank you for coming. Ask us anything. We will answer in plain words." People spoke about fear and confusion when lights flash in the mirror. They asked, "What should I do with my hands? What if I do not understand a question? What if I feel rushed?" Officers answered with the consent card in hand. Turn on the interior light, keep your hands visible, narrate your movements, and know that you can ask for a supervisor if you feel unsure. You can say you do not consent to a search. We will follow that. We will keep things calm. Officer Dalton sat in the back, listening. He had been placed on administrative duty while Internal Affairs reviewed the stop. He attended training sessions on consent procedures and late-night decision-making. He met with a coach who worked with officers on speaking in stressful moments. He wrote a reflection memo that began with an honest line, "I let a small thing, a souvenir pin, change the size of the moment." That was not careful. No one posted that memo online. It was for learning, not shaming. The process ran its course. It ended with discipline that fit the actions and a plan for growth. He could return to patrol after completing the steps, and he would carry the new consent card like a promise. Officer Chen received a small commendation for speaking up and for the thoughtful draft of the consent card. She did not make a speech. She taped the card to the inside of her notebook and wrote one sentence under it, "Calm is a skill." She kept practicing that skill. As for the two men, the case moved through court with steady speed. The printed scripts and the phones formed the center of the evidence. A judge reminded everyone that fear is not a tool for profit. People who had been handed cards came forward, gave statements, and asked good questions. Some felt embarrassed. The support team reminded them there was no reason to feel that way. They had been approached in a confusing moment. They had done nothing wrong. On a quiet afternoon a month later, Maya walked along the harbor with a stamped envelope in her hand. The water was bright and kind. She stopped at a blue mailbox and slid the envelope inside. The note was short. It was addressed to Captain Ramirez and the team. "Thank you," it said, "for choosing the harder, better way when the easy way was louder. Thank you for showing your work. It helped me believe in safety as a shared project, not just a sign on a wall." She added one more line for the clerk, "Thank you for the tea." That night, a marked car sat near the same intersection where the van used to park. Nothing happened. No tips arrived. Drivers moved through like water finding its natural path. A person in a small silver car turned on the interior light before the officer even reached the window at a routine stop for a broken tail light. The officer read the consent card clearly, wrote a fix-it ticket, and explained how to get it signed at a shop. The driver said, "Thank you for speaking clearly." The officer said, "Thank you for staying calm." 2 small sentences. 1 wide lesson. In the captain's office, the consent card hung in a frame beside the tip checklist. The public dashboard on the station website showed bodycam release dates for stops that ended in warnings. The open sessions at the library had become a monthly habit. The anonymous tip line still took calls, but the filter now caught vague noise before it could push a late-night choice into a bad shape. It did not make the city perfect. Cities are never perfect. It made the city honest in a new way. Maya returned to her graduate work. She visited the cafe and wrote notes about systems, habits, and how small tools can guide big feelings. She did not tell the cafe staff who her mother was. She did not need to. She was, simply, a person who had been tested on a dark road and had answered with calm. When she walked out into the evening, the harbor lights drew long silver lines across the water again. The wind carried the soft smell of salt. The traffic signal changed, steady and ordinary, from red to green. And somewhere inside the precinct, a clerk wrote down the day's final note in careful print and turned off the light with a quiet click.